Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's Naji, and I'm made in Banglatown. Today, we have none other than Lynn Blasey. Yes, the write-in candidate for the mayoral election in Hamtramck. She's a longtime arts activist. She's a longtime community leader and has been serving the Detroit and Hamtramck community for a while. And a lot of her supporters have been in my comments saying, "Where's Lynn Blasey?" Here she is. Lynn, welcome to Made in Banglatown. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
So, you know what? I'm excited to get to know you because I don't know anything about you, Lynn. I'll be honest. And you know what? Let's start with that. Let's set the stage. Who is Lynn Blasey?
I am, as you mentioned, a community advocate. I've built my entire life around service to the community professionally. I do have a degree in Middle Eastern history. I studied at the American University in Cairo, Egypt, with a focus on learning Arabic so I could better communicate with folks. Unfortunately, my Arabic isn't that great anymore.
So you studied in Egypt?
Yes.
Wow. How long were you in Egypt?
I was there for one semester back in 2004. Only study abroad student from the state of Michigan.
Wow.
It was pretty wild.
You know what? When you hear of Hamtramck, what comes to mind?
Hamtramck is home. Hamtramck is community and a place where lots of different people come together and live life together.
Okay. Did you grow up in Hamtramck?
I did not. I moved to Hamtramck in 2012.
Okay.
I was on Yemen's, then I rented on Faber for over a decade, and I did recently purchase a home on Poland in 22.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Right
That's
before
amazing.
interest rates went back up.
Yeah, wow, okay. Shout out to you. You got very lucky.
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a second. You were renting in Hamtramck for a while, and now you are a homeowner.
Yeah.
Based on your journey from renter to homeowner, can you kind of explain the environment when it comes to rates and how you saw the community develop from, I'm sorry, you said 2012?
When I first came to Hamtramck, there were still a number of empty homes. There were vacant lots. There were a few burnt out homes. When I lived down on Faber, when I first moved down there was a pack of feral dogs running around the neighborhood.
Wow.
And so in that time that I've lived there, I mean, there was tons of rental opportunities. There was lots of opportunity. And in the 13 years I've been here, now people can't even find apartments. And so it's been a huge change. We built refugee housing. We've built lots of new properties. The city sold off vacant lots so they could be developed. So it's really exciting to be in Hamtramck and to see, when we were struggling to where we're beginning to start thriving.
I really love that. So obviously the residential development of Hamtramck has been something that I've been watching since, I've been a resident in Hamtramck since '96. So, just seeing it grow is amazing. But what else is growing is our property taxes.
Right. I think that the most important thing is to help new buyers understand how the tax system works. We don't have a lot of leverage as a city to change how property taxes are assessed. You can appeal through the assessor's office. But if we're going to improve city services, if we're going to have a functioning government, we need to rely on taxes to do those things. And so I think it's really important to help residents understand before they purchase or before they edit their homes that what that tax implication might be. I know the actual tax code is fairly complicated, but it feels like there should be a way to help people estimate what that impact would be so they can make informed decisions on whether, is this a good idea for me to add more square footage to my home? Is this a worthwhile investment? So I think it's important that we help make sure that residents know how that process works. And if you're going to build a big, beautiful home, then that does come with a big, beautiful tax load. Maybe not so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually one of those residents. I went ahead and added a second floor to my home. We were having such a great time. doing it. And then as soon as it was done, property taxes went up 400%. And it was just like no warning, no nothing. Nobody said anything about that. And then it happened and it just like, okay, well now you got to deal with it.
Right.
So I'm very glad that that's on your radar and that's something that you want to bring awareness to. I understand that city council, the mayor, your role is limited. So you can't do everything, but at least being able to start the conversation and spread resources, that's a very good first step. Speaking about the role of a mayor, what is the role of a mayor in Hamtramck?
So the role of mayor in Hamtramck is really limited. We have a weak mayor system, and what that means is that the city manager runs the day-to-day business of the city. City council approves the hiring of department heads. What the mayor does is the mayor has influence on the direction that the city moves in more of an indirect way. The mayor can create initiatives or convince city council a certain direction might be appealing to go to. The mayor works on the master plan. The mayor is also the spokesperson for the city. And that's really where we have an obligation not only to communicate and represent our city externally, but also internally. And so there's really great opportunities for the mayor to lead the communication, helping people understand things like the implications of improving your home. You're gonna have the construction costs, but then you're gonna have ongoing costs. And what is the return on that? How does the value of your property up? And then also making sure that we're communicating. We have a very culturally language diverse city, making sure that folks whose English isn't their first language, that they're being reached out to intentionally. I think a lot of the outreach from the city is an afterthought.
Not existent, let's just say
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there's opportunities to be a lot more communicative.
Transparent,
And,
I would say.
transparent, sharing. For example, one of my frustrations has been you publish a city council agenda and then city councilmen add things last minute.
What?
Very frequently.
Okay. Where is this? Like where can we get
so
the
yeah,
agenda?
if you go to the city council website and you click on city offices and then you go into council, there's a link to the agenda and it's on a website called Board Docs. And then you have to click on the date of the meeting, scroll up to click on the agenda, and then you can see it. Over the years, as a resident or as a candidate, I've tried to share screenshots of the agenda.
Nice.
Last time I was running for city council, I did type out summaries of the agenda and message it to some of my supporters, specifically tracking topics that I knew they were passionate or interested in and would want to comment on. And in doing that, when you come to a city, like we have the Open Meetings Act to protect residents and to give everybody an opportunity. These are public-facing meetings. The public needs to know what's on the agenda before showing up so they can do their research, they can talk to people, they can share their opinions, and the impact that what city council is voting on would have on them if they vote one way or another. Really, really valuable.
I agree. That's, you touched on a lot of things, and I want to talk about all of those things, actually.
Okay.
I'm very passionate about this. So, number one, let's go back to the role of a mayor, right? So you said that basically the mayor is now the spokesperson of the city.
Yes.
And, their job is to lead the council. Right? As you know, Hamtramck is famously diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, Yemeni, Bangladeshi, Polish, you name it. Why do you think that you are someone that can represent them correctly?
I have a long history of doing that in Hamtramck. Before COVID, I was invited to serve on the Yemen Town project.
Okay.
And that was an initiative by a councilman to unify the Yemeni community south of Holbrook, an attempt to start branding that neighborhood similar to what Banglatown is, in a way that Yemeni businesses are celebrated, Yemeni voices are celebrated. Unfortunately, COVID dissolved those efforts. And since then, I've served on the Hamtramck Arts and Culture Commission, working with Dwight L. Garrett. We launched the Juneteenth celebrations at Sarah Garrett Park together. The park is named after his late mother. I've been very involved in those things. I spoke at the dedication of the park where we finally got the beautiful monument that explains the history and the cultural significance of Sarah Garrett Park. I serve as an advisory board member of API Vote Michigan. When we had the 2021 flooding, I worked with community leaders from the Yemeni and Bangladeshi communities and FEMA to create the Hamtramck Area Disaster Recovery Group. Unfortunately, those leaders didn't continue with me to do the project, but through that project, I worked with multiple organizations that are better equipped to actually handle cases and things like that, and facilitated long-term recovery from the flooding for multiple residents of diverse backgrounds, and helped our case managers navigate the language barriers and challenges along those lines.
Yeah, the list goes on when it comes to community serving. It's very evident that you are very experienced in helping communities. So what makes you think that Hamtramck needs you now as a leader in office to continue helping them grow?
One big reason is that we have a lot of good things to share about Hamtramck. The current and recent administration has not taken the initiative to tell our own story. Fortunately, we've been playing catch up, and so word will get out about a scandal or, you know, those catchy news topics, and that's all anybody knows about Hamtramck. There are a lot of missed opportunities for us to celebrate what makes Hamtramck special to those same audiences. So we need a mayor who is forward-thinking and really takes that spokesperson of the city message to heart and seeks out opportunities, goes to Lansing and talks to our representatives about all of the good things happening, and talking to representatives about how they can address our needs in Hamtramck, how they can channel funds. We need to have a positive relationship with Martha G. Scott, our Wayne County Commissioner, and I've gone to her coffee hours periodically to check in, see what she's working on. She's done a lot for seniors in the community, and I think that there's opportunities with, you know, serving seniors and disabled residents. We have a lot of great initiatives that could be modeled in other communities, and I think that is something Max Gilgenis in City Hall has created the Every Neighbor program, where residents come alongside our neighbors to help them maintain their properties, to shovel snow and things like that. That is something that everybody should know about.
I agree. This is actually the reason why I started Made in Banglatown. Anytime anyone hears about Hamtramck, it's always the negative things that they see in the headlines, and I was just tired of it. I wanted to change the narrative of Banglatown and Hamtramck and really just highlight the positive things that people are doing here to create culture. And not even here in Hamtramck, but there's actually a lot of people who grew up in Hamtramck. They might not be in Hamtramck anymore, but they are in big roles in the country doing things that I feel like they're able to do these things because they were a product of their environment. Hamtramck, you know, Hamtramck has a very unique way of shaping its residents. You want to be that spokesperson. Another thing you touched on is going to Lansing, you know, talking about funding and things like that. A lot of your supporters bring that up. Every time they talk about Lynn Blasey, they say that she's the one that can bridge the gap. She can create the bridge. She can talk to the people in government. So honestly, just tell me, why do they think that? Or why do you think that you can do a better job with that versus your candidates?
I've already established those relationships. I was there when Senator Chang and Abe Ayash opened their offices. They had joint offices in Hamtramck. And I go to their listening sessions, hear what they have to share, and share that with the community, and share concerns that I've heard from the community with them.
Do you see any other councilmen or any other mayors?
Typically.
I gotcha.
Usually those events have a very small crowd.
I see. You know, the crowds for the city hall meetings, also, these meetings are very impactful, right? How can we get more people involved?
I think it's twofold. One of the first time when I ran for city council in 20, I was very new to politics. I feel like I'm still new to politics. I'm not a politician. I'm a community worker. One thing that really surprised me is when I was asking some residents when I was door knocking, how do you want me to serve you, or what are you looking for in your representation? And a lot of people want to vote for someone and know that person is going to make decisions in their best interest and they don't have to pay attention. And I thought that was really interesting.
Okay.
And so I think knowing that, that's, a small handful of the population just wants to be able to trust that our government is making good decisions on our behalf and not have to worry about it because they have so many other things on their plate. But then there are people that would care if they knew what was happening. And so that's where I've done some things like sharing on social media, or my last election in 2023 when I was running for city council, I had a text group and a group of concerned residents that I was in open dialogue with. I knew what their concerns were. If anything came up on the ballot or on the city council agenda that I knew they would want to weigh in on, I would send a copy of the agenda to them and then remind them that if you can't make it in person, you can send in written comment that the city clerk would read on your behalf. And so there's a lot of ways for folks to get their opinions before city council. I do think we need a culture shift in city council meetings. It's been debated a lot back and forth. How much time should we give to the public? What can we limit what topics they're talking about? Almost on an annual basis, city council goes back and forth on how many minutes each person has. And from my perspective, we are all here to meet the needs of the community.
Absolutely.
We are here to serve the community. And if it's going to take 2 hours to listen to what the community has to say, that's what we're here for. And I think that we should, to prevent us from having 2-hour, open, what's
forums.
That called? Open, like the comment section.
Yeah.
We need to do our due diligence to talk to residents outside of meetings.
Yeah.
And have those conversations and have an open door policy and make ourselves accessible to the community in a way that works for them. Because, it doesn't always work to come to a city council meeting, and it doesn't, I want to make sure that our residents feel heard, they feel seen and understood.
A lot of people don't even know when city council meetings are, and then after they happen, where can they kind of get a recap? So, you know what? I'm glad that you touched on this. I come from a media marketing background where I noticed trying to just get the agenda, got to click here, go here. Even for someone like me who's tech savvy, born and raised here, I mean, this is a lot. I'm halfway through, I'm going to stop, and then I won't be informed. Something that I've been telling every single community leader that I've been meeting with is, how can we streamline the media as well as providing clarity and information to the residents. Right now, we're in a day and age of TikTok, okay? Let's really understand what that means. Short form content, easily digestible, and just really in-your-face media where people don't have to go looking for it. The content is gonna go looking for them. So this is not just for the younger generations, not just Gen Z, not just millennials, but the older generations as well. My mother and father, they're on Facebook. They try to watch my content, but as soon as they see oh, you're doing an interview for an hour, nope, scroll past, can you just share some clips? Everybody wants digestible content, and they want to be able to feel like they're a part of the conversation as well. That's something that the city of Hamtramck isn't really doing. My idea is, having media platforms like mine to actually be the voice. You guys take care of the internal things, like running the meetings and everything, the policies, whatever. Now share the information to a third party, someone who can now take that information, make it digestible for the community, and then put it out in a way that they're informed and they can be engaged. So now if they comment and things like that, you can take those comments and share those at the meetings to say hey, this resident raised this issue, or they had a question about this. So now it just increases engagement from the residents. Also, it streamlines your process, your internal process with the team to get the residents heard and figure out what it is that they really want. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that is a really valuable perspective, and I think that I was hopeful when Omar joined City Hall that there would be more media, but I think he was given so many other responsibilities that it just isn't feasible.
Shout out Oz Media, man. Let's have a conversation with your boy.
Right, and I think there's a lot of different people in Hamtramck that have been trying to do that, but it is fragmented because there is no cooperation from City Hall.
Yeah.
And, you have a few people recording city council meetings, but then it doesn't feel like a team effort. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, Greg is doing this over here. This other media representative is doing this over here.
I see.
And I really think there's value. We have an official relationship with the Hamtramck Review, which is under new management, which I'm excited about. I think there's opportunities to be a lot more engaging there. I haven't met with any of their new folks yet. That newspaper is our city of record. There's no reason why we couldn't publish the city council agenda every Friday. It's made public every Friday online. If we get that to the Hamtramck Review in time, then that could be another avenue to get that in the public sphere so people have time to digest it. We would take initiative to send the agenda out to more people. I think there's a lot of value in that, and I think that would give more people the opportunity to be engaged.
I see. So when you say the Review, you mean like the newspaper? I
So
see.
that's the official, Hamtramck City Hall has an official relationship with the Review.
I see.
That is our paper of record.
Paper of record.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Are they online?
They do have an online presence.
Okay.
Right now, I know it's a very small operation. I think Chip might be the only reporter. But I think there's a lot of people who are taking in information, and I think if we can coordinate those efforts so that we're working more intentionally with the Arab News and the Yemeni American News and all of these organizations, I think that would go a long ways.
As long as all the media reports to one singular
Right.
entity where they're getting uniform information.
Yes.
I think, I'm advocating for the city of Hamtramck. I don't know what the council is going to do, but I'm going to do my part in media for the city.
One thing I really liked that you said too, that a lot of people in City Hall and on council don't want to consider Facebook chatter and all of the comments on posts official communication for the city. But what I really liked that you said is each media kind of sharing that feedback back as a reporting to City Council.
Yeah.
So if you're monitoring the chatter on your posts and you can distill that into a few sentences sharing, well, most of the community is concerned about this relationship to this agenda item, or they're really excited about this.
Yeah.
And then the media can play a more integral role and make public comment transformative.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Whether someone writes in a letter to city council versus commenting on a post under one of the Hamtramck groups or even the Facebook page, it should be treated the same way.
Right.
Yeah, that's
resource allocation.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. I might have to start coming to these city council meetings. That's what it is.
We'll
So
hold you to it.
All right. When are they actually?
City council meetings are
Yeah.
regularly scheduled for the second and fourth Tuesday of each month. Typically, they start at
Okay.
7 o'clock. They're on the
Oh.
second floor of City Hall.
Okay.
Generally, during the month of Ramadan, it's moved up to 6 or 6:30. I'm not sure as Ramadan is moving into winter month that's going to affect,
Yeah.
because maybe iftar will happen before the meeting.
yeah.
It's been a long time since
Okay.
Ramadan was in the winter here. So
Okay. Give me some ground rules when it comes to being at a city council meeting. Number one, can I live stream it?
yes, there are actually a lot of people who do that. The media has been present.
Yeah.
And so when you attend a meeting in person, you'll go down the hall. There's printed out agendas in the hallway. There's also little cards that you can fill out if you want to speak at the meeting. You can speak at the beginning of the meeting. You can speak at the end of the meeting. And if there's a public hearing, you can indicate that you'd like to speak there too. Generally, it just requires your name. It might ask your address or residency status, and then you turn that into our city clerk. You just hand it to her and sit in the audience. The audience is required to be quiet and respectful while the city council meeting is running, and is only invited to speak during public comment sections, and is only allowed to address the mayor and the entire city council, not individuals. No staff members of City Hall or comment back to people in the audience. It's all outlined in Robert's Rules of Orders, which is a generally agreed upon framework that all municipalities follow.
Who's a moderator for those meetings?
The mayor.
Wow, sounds good. Thank you so much for letting me know. When I hear city council meetings the first thing that I think about is the budget.
Yeah.
That's usually where you speak on how to allocate those funds and, plans to, I guess, drive business into Hamtramck, things like this. Let's talk about the budget for a second. Based on the things that you've seen, where do you think Hamtramck is spending too much as well as not enough?
That's a good question. I think that right now it's not necessarily a problem of spending, it's a problem of revenue to support the services that we're essentially obligated to provide to the community.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So I don't think we have we're not spending frivolously here or there. Every spring, there are actually budget meetings that are open to the public before city council meetings, and they do generally show the budget on a screen during those meetings. The person in charge of finance at the city goes through each section of the budget with the mayor and council. It explains if a grant came in and we've spent the money, but additional payments aren't going to come in for another 3 months. We need to make a budget adjustment to reflect that and things like that. So there's a lot of conversation about the budget that is actually open to the public. And I think that's really valuable. And then also in each city council meeting, in the consent agenda, they do publish that month's budget. And so if there's any adjustments, they don't review it in the meeting publicly, but those attachments are available to the public
For
if
review.
you want to look at spreadsheets.
So I come from a financial background.
Right.
I'm a licensed banker and investment consultant. So now, you know what? We were talking about streamlining thing, right? Streamlining the way the budget is available to the community as well as available for them to see. Is there a way that, let's say if you become mayor, that you can create like a more streamlined, transparent dashboard of the budget so that the residents can see what's going on? Is that possible?
I think that's possible. I'm not quite sure what that would look like. I would have to dive into it and probably work with someone like you who is more. In my day job, I do have a lot of budgetary responsibility, but it's very specific to nonprofit organizations. And so there's a lot more different revenue streams and expenses that are involved in government budgets.
Right, absolutely.
So I would need some help.
No,
But
that's
definitely
a fair.
possible, yeah.
I'm very curious to see
I
the
do
budget.
know, like most businesses, the majority of the budget is spent on personnel. And we do have
Personnel.
salaries, benefits, employees of the city. As far as the core city hall
Expenses.
budget, like the main budget, not for special projects. And there's revenue from speeding tickets and things like that have to go to something special. Revenue from water bills to go directly back into supporting the water system.
Let's talk about the staff then of Hamtramck. I mean, for a small city like this, do you think we need a large number of staff members in City Hall and different? Do you think there's a way that maybe we can condense, or maybe you might take the other approach? Maybe you want to increase the amount of staff that we have.
Over the last few years, when we had the emergency manager come in, a lot of things were stripped, including staff. So we sold off equipment, we, contracted out different services. And one thing that City Hall has been working towards is bringing those services back into City Hall, which does take more staff. So for example, in the Department of Public Services, they used to contract out like the snowplows and street sweeping and all of these different services that we paid for whether it snowed or not. That's ineffective and inefficient. And so I do agree with making sure that our City Hall is adequately staffed to deliver the services that we need to deliver to the city. I think that we are getting there. I do think that we have a few more positions that we should be working to figure out how to fund in the city. If we are going to effectively communicate out, we need someone who can manage that communication. We've been talking about interacting with the media, a strategic
approach residents to
part
the
of the
City Hall.
challenge is there's not somebody in City Hall that is their singular job.
Or a brand, I don't know, something. I hear
so
you.
it's a little bit fragmented. We do have The DDA working on the Main Street project. There's media, the Discover Hamtramck initiative has come out of that. There's effort in those areas. Yeah, it's not unified.
A lot of people would say the same thing, not just for media, but all the departments in Hamtramck. It seems every department is doing its own thing, right? Right, everyone's doing their own thing, but now something has to bring all that together and make it digestible, not just for the residents, I would say, but for the mayor, for city council, Lansing, and things like that. So that's a very infrastructural problem that we should work on as a city, and that also requires a budget. Speaking of the budget, one of your opponents said that their idea of bringing in more business or more revenue to the city is bringing in more brand-named businesses to the city. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that is the exact opposite of what we need.
Okay.
The revenue from big mainstream businesses will not stay in Hamtramck. Our mean income is anywhere, there's different quotes, but anywhere between $20,000 and $40,000 per household. $40,000 is on the generous side.
Yeah.
We can't afford as Hamtramckans to pour our money into the pockets of big industry and CEOs and bottom lines that have nothing to do with our city. I think we have a lot of opportunities and we're starting to get there. There's some experimental projects happening now that I'm really excited about. One of those is Hamtramck Bazaar, where we're celebrating the creatives that live in the city. We are giving them opportunities to increase their audiences. There are a lot of nonprofits working in Hamtramck who help people get skills to go out and make their own businesses. And I think we can be a small business accelerator.
Yes.
I think there's also a lot of opportunity. We're surrounded by Detroit. Detroit is a UNESCO City of Design, and the design industry is huge. There are lots of opportunities where we could have designers having office spaces in Hamtramck. All of those salaries would contribute to our income taxes. And then we can tap into the diversity of Hamtramck and help make sure that any design innovation is relevant not only to a specific audience, but also works for everybody. What better place to explore that and to learn about the differences and the different challenges of diverse people and communities than Hamtramck.
Another perspective of bringing in revenue to Hamtramck that I've gotten was we have too many department heads in Hamtramck, or maybe, a lot of different people have different salaries. Maybe we should condense that. That's a perspective that I've gotten. Another thing that I've heard was bringing in, let's say, like another factory or creating a big mall or something. These are things to drive in business, right? Or to drive up the revenue. What are your thoughts on that?
We're only 2.5 square miles, and most of our real estate is pretty tapped out. I can stretch out my arms and touch my neighbor's house and my own at the same time. So there's not a lot of room for big square footage kinds of places. We do have some challenges with what to do with the jail. We have a little bit of land where American Axle has parking lots. It's actually been about 10 years since American Axle demolished their buildings.
What do we do with all that space?
That is because it's owned by American Axle, they ultimately get to decide how they're going to develop it. One thing that has been consistently a challenge in Hamtramck is a balance between attracting large-scale investment that you would need to turn that into more viable, usable space, and counterbalancing that with tax incentives. There are tax abatement opportunities out there, but how do you find that balance and make sure that if you give an industry or an organization a 10-year tax abatement, what is the guarantee that they're not just going to pull out in 10 years and we never see those property taxes?
And also, is it attractive for them to stay for 10 years versus to another city? I've heard there's a lot of entitlements already for the city of Hamtramck. You touched on it earlier when it comes to pensions and things like that. These funds are already guaranteed for the past workers of Hamtramck, right? How familiar are you with the entitlements and the pension plans that some people are saying are siphoning the budget? What are your thoughts?
I don't know if they're necessarily siphoning the budget, but the pensions are an obligation that we can't get out of. One strategy to help make sure that we have the funds to offset those expenses is advocating leniency. And one of the main goals of that work is revenue sharing. But within the state of Michigan budget, they distribute money back to the cities. And we can advocate how much we get back.
See,
So,
that is
so advocating to increase that percentage help offset those expenses that we're
entitlements.
locked into.
Yeah.
And by all means, good for the people who have earned that. And I don't think it was a wise business choice for the city to lock into those things, but that's what happens when you give up control and emergency managers come in. They try to make the best of a situation, and they're looking at the short-term results rather than the of the intervention.
I hear you.
So we need to be responsible moving
yeah.
forward.
Right now,
So we're
yes.
not in those situations again.
10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line.
Right. And that's
Okay.
where it's really important, where like we just turned off the parking meters. I agree that was probably a good idea.
Absolutely.
But without a plan in place to replace them,
Right.
we have no plan to make up that $200,000 a year lost revenue. Those meters were terrible. But we need to have something in place if we're going to get rid of something that is a significant source of revenue like that.
Right.
It's irresponsible to
Just-
get rid of it without any plan.
I agree. I agree. Is this something that is more in the field of the city manager's job?
The city council is the one who decides what contracts we have.
Okay.
I do agree that it would be the job of the city manager to look for alternative contracts, but there's no reason why city council shouldn't be doing the same and should be very involved in that conversation.
Absolutely.
Especially if they have very strong opinions.
Sounds good. Have you met the new city manager?
I have not. I think he's
Okay.
interim, though. So.
Well, every time I
But
bring
yeah.
up that, I get different answers.
I
so
don't think
know.
it was also, I didn't see that on the city council agenda.
What do you mean?
And so I could be wrong, but every Friday I try to look at the city council agenda to see if there's anything important that I want to comment on as a resident. And had I seen that, I definitely would have. I'm not sure.
I got you.
that
So I'll say,
Tuesday,
as a
but yeah.
perspective of a Hamtramck resident, the things that I saw online were Hamtramck swears in the city manager. I've seen multiple videos, not only him there, but also there was an interview on him, an attorney. I think his name is Alex LeGros. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry, Alex. But, I didn't see the word interim anywhere, but I
Okay.
did see city manager. So, this is just another example of miscommunication. And this is something that majority of the leaders have expressed to me, that they just don't feel like this was a good time for another city manager to step in, especially with election season is almost done, right? And then I've heard that city council and the mayor gets the final say
Yes.
for that, right? Like that, I don't know how that's gonna go internally, but yeah, I was just curious because right now what I've been learning is the city manager is really managing the city, and their job is it's very important. That person needs to be the most transparent with everyone, right? Well, by everyone, you guys.
Right.
You guys at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's
it's kind of
pretty interesting.
surprising to me that, and that again goes back to the lack of transparency, the lack of open communication. All that does is stir up conspiracy theories or distrust.
Yeah, don't get me started with conspiracy theories.
Oh, they're wild.
Great content, but just they mess up the narrative. Speaking of the narrative, another narrative that's been going around is write-in candidates.
Yes.
People are saying that the success rate of a write-in candidate actually winning the election is very low.
Correct.
Right? So now when that happens, people are saying that write-in candidates are used to split the vote. What are your thoughts on when people think that way or say
Right.
things like that?
Okay. Well, I'll start with why I'm a write-in candidate
Yeah.
and why I didn't choose to run for council this year. And so this spring, when it was time to file as candidates for council, I knew that there was a lot of campaign happening and knew that investigations were happening, and there were, for a number of reasons, delays, and it didn't make it to the public until summer. But I wasn't comfortable taking people's cash donations and volunteer time, hours, energy, and effort when I knew that it wasn't a fair system. That we could work as hard as we wanted, as hard as we could raise a ton of money and run a really awesome, clean campaign. That's why I chose not to run as a city council candidate.
Okay.
After the primary election, residents started reaching out to me. My choice not to run as council was confirmed because all of these cases are in the process of going to trial.
Right.
More video evidence was made public of fraudulent activities happening. And different residents from different parts of the Hamtramck community started reaching out to me in September. And they said they're talking to people, and there was a large demographic of people that were so fed up with the whole thing. They didn't trust anybody that made it through the primary, and they were going to sit this election out. Statistically, when people sit out an election, the effort it takes to get them to re-engage next time just grows exponentially.
I see.
So my primary reason for running as a write-in candidate for mayor was to keep people engaged. That said, as I've been listening to what the two other candidates have to say, I feel like I'm a stronger candidate. I have a lot more to bring to the table. I'm better at building bridges. I have a track record. I'm not controversial in the way that I'm under investigation for where I live, or how much I owe the city or things like that. And so I can bring something to the table that residents, specifically residents who were ready to throw in the towel, can feel very comfortable and confident voting for me. And that's been confirmed. I live in Hamtramck. My boyfriend and I walk all over the place. We walk to the grocery store. Since I announced that I was running, even strangers have stopped me on the street and said, "Hey, you're Lynn? Thank you. Thank you for running. I wasn't going to vote. Now I have a reason to vote."
Wow.
And that's really important to me, is to give people a voice. Democracy works when people have choices that they're comfortable and confident in.
Let me ask you this. Forgive me, I don't really understand the back end of the election process. So it seems like you do have a very niche fan base. So how come you're not actually on the ballot? Or, how does that work?
To be on the ballot, you have to start the process in spring.
Oh.
So when I chose not to run, had I chosen to run for city council, I would have been on the primary ballot in August, city council.
I gotcha.
My ethics, my integrity, not feel comfortable doing that at the time.
How are you able to be a write-in candidate for mayor? Yeah.
So to be a write-in candidate, you can be a write-in candidate for any election you want. All you need to do is go to City Hall. The deadline has passed for this election. Usually, I want to say it's like 2 weeks before the election. It's a state law. What you do is you go to the city clerk, and there's a form that you fill out that says what office you would be willing to serve in, and that you're running as a write-in candidate for, and then you need to get it notarized, and then you turn it in. And so what that does
2 weeks before the election?
is the latest you can find.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, which is, I think at the state level that needs to change, because it doesn't make sense, because that's after absentee ballots have gone out.
Right, yeah.
So if somebody waits until 2 weeks before the election, then really their chances of even getting 100 votes are low.
I thought it was supposed to be if you can do it before the primary, that makes sense to me. I didn't know you can do it after the primary.
Yeah, so you can do it, and you file with that. You still have to make a campaign committee with the county.
Okay.
Which means that you have to, if you get donations, you have to track them. You have to get an employee identification number for your committee. You need to open a bank account and all of those things.
Yeah.
It's an uphill battle, like you said, getting the word out there. And then you have to let people know that you're a write-in candidate, but also you need to show them where. Where do you write in that name?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So, please, talk to the people right now. How do you accurately write in a candidate so that their vote counts?
So in the mayoral section on this ballot, there are 2 names and a blank line. You can only vote for one person for mayor. And so you can either choose from 2 of the names and fill in the circle next to it, or in the line below, you can write my name, Lynn, and fill in the dot next to that. Then for city council, what you'll see is there are 6 names. There's always twice as many names in the general election on the ballot than there are spots to fill. So you always have a choice. If you don't want to vote for any of those 6 names, or you want to vote for 1 or 2 and you want to write in a candidate for city council, there are 4 lines on this ballot below those names for city council. And the current registered candidates as write-ins for city council are Joe, J-O-E, Diane, D-I-A-N-E, and Veronica, V-E-R-O-N-I-C-A. And so if you write in any of those names, you also have to fill in the dot next to their name. And again, for city council, you can only vote for 3 people, so you can only have 3 dots filled in.
Okay.
And then you fill it in. If it's an absentee ballot, you sign off. And right now, you probably should not mail it. You should drop it off at the drop box outside of City Hall. And then if you're voting in person, you just feed it into the machine when you're done voting.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. Lynn,
You're welcome.
what is next for Lynn Blasey? Whether it's mayor or not,
Right.
I mean, what do you have planned? How can people get behind you? What are some initiatives that, you would like to start, keep working on, whether you are in a public office or not?
I'm always here for the community. I'm continuing to be vice chair of the Hamtramck Arts and Culture Commission if I'm not elected. I'm continuing to be active in Hamtramck Mutual Aid and the Every Neighbor program, working behind the scenes to administer the snow shoveling and making sure that residents in need are paired with able-bodied neighbors that live nearby to make sure that their needs are accounted for. I'm here in town. I'm building community. I'm investing my time and energy in the city, doing whatever I can to help us grow and move into a positive direction, and communicating about opportunities as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This is your time to give a message to anyone watching who might have any misconceptions about you, or just a message that you want to share. This is Lynn Blasey to the people.
I'm here to serve the community. I think that we need a leader who has a clear plan, but also has a track record of delivering, has a track record of springing to action when the community needs it. I've done that in disaster recovery services. I've done that in responding to the needs of our senior citizens, specifically as resources for that demographic went away after COVID. I am here to invest in our communities, our parks, our opportunities for residents to get together, and really just tell the story of Hamtramck and help share with the world what a beautiful, vibrant community that is incredibly wonderfully diverse could look like. And we can be a model to the world and change that narrative.
Wow, that's amazing. I really love that. I truly appreciate you for coming out and being on my platform, Made in Banglatown. This is exactly what it's about. Having open dialogue and transparent conversations with people. No fluff, no political jargon. It's just us and the people. I'm Naji, and I'm Made in Banglatown. And for the residents of Hamtramck, your voice really matters. Your story really matters. Your vote truly matters. The first step is getting informed. Now it's really up to you. You're the voice, you're the final decision. So, make sure you go out and vote. And even after that, make sure to stay on top of communicating with your leaders and continue holding them accountable. I know I'll continue doing that. So again, I'm Naji, I'm Made in Banglatown, and until next time.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.